I'm BJ Armstrong. I'm back with Seth today. We talked to you a couple of weeks ago about wealth building, and particularly wealth building through real estate. And it occurred to us after that video, we didn't really get a lot into the hows, right? We both got to start somehow. But if you watch that video and you find yourself going, hey, yeah, that's something that I want to do, it's likely that something showed up for you in the last few weeks. And namely, I would call it fear. Right? And fear shows up in a lot of different ways. Most of the time, it shows up as us making excuses for not doing things that are maybe a little bit difficult, right? So, if maybe you can even think back. Can you think back to the first property you bought? What were some of the things that you were afraid of, or maybe held you back from getting started?
Yeah. Well, we were kind of just talking before off camera that, I'm fortunate enough to have a somewhat formal education in finance, general finance, so I kind of studied this stuff, so I feel very fortunate that was my history. But straight out of college, right into real estate, I knew I wanted to invest in real estate. So what I did, my fear was, oh my gosh, what do I do? I started by finding all of the lending institutions in town, going and talking to bankers, going to coffee, finding that one person, finding those two people that would actually look at a 22-year-old person and go, yeah, I want to take a risk on you. Yeah, like we'll take a chance on you. And that's exactly what happened. So I always tell the story that there's one person in particular that I'm very blessed to have met, and that started my foundation. So my fear turned into just going and talking to people and finding that lending institution that.
Let me ask you this: so do you remember some people telling you no?
Oh, absolutely, all the time. Yeah,
so yeah. There's a point of it, right? Is not being willing to accept the answer of no, I'm not going to do this, right? You were obviously pretty fiercely committed to making something happen.
No doubt. Scraped together every penny I could and went and bought a duplex.
Right. So relationships, obviously in real estate, are absolutely critical for us getting our business done. But anything you want to do beyond real estate is probably an even bigger deal, right? So definitely. Lenders come big. My experience is probably a little bit different. I did have a head start in the sense that my father was in the business, so he had banking relationships with a whole lot of people, and I remember him actually setting the appointment for me. Right, so it was kind of a no-brainer when I walked in, because they already kind of had a trust level because they knew my family. But yeah, it was once you get that, what I discovered at one point too is that shoot, if the bank's willing to give me money to do this, why wouldn't I do it?
Why wouldn't I? That's always the question. Why wouldn't I? You take the bank's money and just go turn it into a profit. I mean, some are better than others, but
when you can't be stupid about it, right? I mean, so it's not just about hey, go any property works, right? So somewhere in there, you also did some research to figure out here's the cash flow and here's how it's going to operate.
Right. I'm not one to use the technicalities of cap rate and everything. I don't work that way. I've got a different strategy. But if I can take a lump sum of money and put it down on a piece of real estate and know that it's going to rent for approximately X amount of dollars and it's immediately turning a monthly profit, to me in Bloomington Normal, it's a very conservative rental market. It works. It's a long-term game. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is certainly a long-term game, but that's kind of my goal.
Do you think that's the risk? When people buy investment properties, do you think that's the risk is that they don't turn a profit?
I think it's more the lack of education, right? So back to the fear of, the toilet's going to leak overnight, at midnight, the water heater's going to bust, I'm going to get those 2 a.m. phone calls. That doesn't happen, right? It just doesn't happen. But yeah, some will lose a little bit of money monthly, but a conversation for another day. It could be a loss leader, right? I mean, that might not make sense to a whole lot of people, but a business loss leader is important too.
Yeah, and if I was investing in my first property, or I was helping somebody invest in their first property, I would absolutely go to, hey, make sure it's profitable before you ever do it, right? So
certainly,
right.
That's how it grows. That's how we get.
I want it to be profitable.
Net worth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's interesting. So talk to us about maintenance, because that's probably another thing. I remember even as a kid, and just people that I knew that had a lot of rental properties, and man, did they complain.
Well, I've been through all of it with management, outside management companies. I've brought management in-house. It's been my full-time job at times. it can be its own animal. But it's, I mean, I always say that this is my first child, right? My investment, my real estate investment is my first child. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in there. And if there isn't, I don't think it's going to be as successful as it could be, right? You have to get in it.
Oh, that's fair.
Don't have to. You can choose to get in it or not, but part of my success is because I've been in real estate. I am a realtor. I live it. I breathe it. I can do that. I'm in the real estate all day, and I've been able to save myself time and money by doing that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, for part of it, right, you saving the commission is nothing else. But yeah, any sweat equity or any of your own blood and tears you're going to put into it is absolutely worthwhile. So it does sometimes require a Saturday.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And now, fortunately, I've been able to choose not to work Saturdays. Overtime. But there's been a lot of hard work.
Yeah. So probably a little bit different than yours. Real estate investment's probably my fourth child, right? So I've had some other businesses, and that was kind of the last one that I got into. And so far, it's been the easiest. So it's been the most profitable in terms of I have to put the least amount of time into it. And I have probably the least number of dollars invested in that stuff that actually generates a monthly income. So it's been an interesting thing, and now it just becomes a how do you grow bigger. So there's somebody that's starting out there and going, hey, this is a big step for me to go borrow $50,000 or $100,000 or something. It's a big step then to take it to the next level and go, okay, how do I invest the next big chunk?
Right. Well, I mean, if you have $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, you get to decide where you want to put it, right? And why not put it into a piece of real estate that is a tangible asset, that is a roof over someone's head, that someone is always going to need to live in.
Absolutely.
And turn a profit out. You could choose to put it in the stock market if you want. I just have no control over that.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's assume that I'm just sitting on the couch watching this video and I'm charged up about investing in real estate and I have absolutely no clue how to do it. Where would you send me?
Talk to one of us first. I love talking about this stuff, so please, anytime, let me know. But I always counsel people to scrape together as much money as their savings, put it in a savings account, and let it sit there. Let that be your 20% down payment, and then start talking to the banks. Don't talk to the Chases, no offense, the big banks. Get your local banks, go talk to as many as you can, and find that person that you're going to find that bond with for a long term that's going to take a risk on you.
Yeah, it's interesting. The local bank, I agree, is critical. They're going to they know Bloomington Normal, or the local areas and that. I still work with the same banker that my very first loan was taken with, right? I mean, so it becomes an amazing deal.
A lot easier.
Absolutely. So really what Seth's saying too is find a mentor. Find somebody that you can bounce your ideas off of and say, hey, is it good or bad? Ironically, there's probably a mentor out there that would also be willing to be a partner.
Interesting concept, yeah.
Right? So sometimes it's a matter of finding somebody that has the money and the expertise, and they'll put up the money and let somebody else go do all the work. Right? So
the answer will always be no if you don't ask the question.
There you go.
Always.
And you can't be afraid of the no, right? So just like Seth said earlier, right? I mean, you gotta be resilient from that. So that probably is enough for us to go today. I appreciate you listening to this. Honestly, our goal is we want to help you think bigger. We want to help you take action on that thinking also. So those two things are hugely important, and that's what makes people successful in the world of real estate. So thanks for watching. Seth Coulard, BJ Armstrong. Let us know if you have any questions.